Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to part 3 of this series on the 5 fears secretly running your life. I think I missed my calling as a DJ. Today we're talking about the fear that disguises itself better than all the others and how to recognize it the next time it sneaks into your brain to try to ruin your life.
Life is beautiful.
All right, I'm going to tell you a story about just how deadly, literally deadly, that this fear can be. You ready for this? When I came across this story, I was like, whew, this is one of the best stories I've shared in a while on this one because it's very, very unknown. Okay?
Let's hear it.
It's December 28th, 1978, and United Airlines Flight 173 is heading to Portland, Oregon. 181 souls are aboard 3 days after Christmas, so most of these people are coming home. The pilot lowers the landing gear, and the crew hears a loud thump, but they get no clean confirmation that the right gear has locked down, so the pilot realizes this could be a real problem. The landing gear needs to be set up properly before I take this plane down. So he starts circling around while everyone's trying to figure out the problem, the crew and the engineers on board. 10 minutes go by, then 30 minutes go by, and then an hour goes by. And this whole time, fuel is being burned, obviously. So the first officer and the flight engineer are watching the fuel drop, which is now becoming problem number 2 besides the landing gear. And they want to tell the pilot, who the pilot should be aware of the fact that like they're gonna run out of fuel, and these guys, the flight engineer and whatever, they want to tell the pilot that the fuel's running out, bro. The fuel's running out, but they are too scared to like step over this guy's authority. Like they don't want to step on any toes, so they only kind of like hint at the fact like, hey, keep an eye on the fuel. Keep an eye on the fuel. Basically, to make a long story short, the captain is so locked in on the landing gear problem, and because these people did not very clearly directly communicate to the pilot that the fuel is running out, they end up running out of fuel and landing literally on the street of a Portland suburb, and 10 people die on the plane. One of them being the engineer that couldn't directly tell the pilot that the fuel was running low.
Damn.
So the crazy part was there's now a thing called crew resource management in airline flights, CRM for short, and it's training that teaches a cockpit crew how to talk to each other so the junior people will speak up to the captain loudly, clearly, with the real words when something is wrong. All because of this whole scenario that went down.
Yeah, that's a great story. As you were saying that, and that last part about the getting the younger people to speak up, I feel like that is also so true in businesses. When there is a leader that doesn't like to
Authoritarian.
when he doesn't like to be challenged or she doesn't like to be challenged, you know that there is a iceberg that's ahead for that business.
Yep.
And the opposite is also true. Like the companies that have like these flat organizations where no matter what level
The
you
door
are,
is always open.
you can say something. Those are the ones that usually have massive amounts of success because they are constantly seeing threats when they come.
Yeah. So the fear we're talking about today is the fear of conflict. That was the fear that was in that engineer who unfortunately passed away. The fear of conflict cost him his life. And I think this is a really, really common one in a lot of people.
Conflict avoidance.
Yeah. I feel like you struggle with this a little bit.
I know this one very well.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
I've been a conflict avoider my entire life, I feel like. And, working with my coach, I was able to like double click on where this thing actually came from. And I, like most of our problems in life, they stem from our childhood. And growing up, I was the middle child of 4 kids. And I was, in my eye, what I thought was the problem child, in the sense where all my siblings were really, really smart and school came so naturally to them. And for me, it was a little more difficult. And because of that,
to give a little more context, school was everything because we had Italian immigrant parents, and like getting an education was the number one top priority for their
Yeah.
children. So if you weren't as good at school, that was a huge threat and a huge
Yeah.
problem as children.
So like mom would go to parent teacher conference, and Mike and I would be at the same school, and she would go see all Mike's teachers, and she'd go see all my teachers, and it was like Mike is excellent. He's the star of the class. Da, da. And then it would be Nick. Nick is really nice. He's kind to all his classmates, but he's just really struggling in this area. And I would always feel like I was a burden because of that. And because of that feeling, I would try to avoid creating any other havoc or conflict in any other areas of my life. And that's where I learned this behavior of, okay, just be the easygoing one that doesn't cause any problems or stir things.
And I want to double click that word right there, because that word easygoing is the costume that this fear wears. It is how you kind of cope with this conflict avoidance. You tell yourself, I'm just an easygoing dude. Meanwhile, you're staying quiet when you should be speaking up. You are letting people walk over your boundaries. You are you are letting people disrespect you. When you when you go too far in the extreme of easygoing. And that's happened so many times in our partnership where I will disrespect you because you just kind of let me, and I've needed to have self-awareness of how I take out my anger on you because you are just this easy target. But then also you have had the self-awareness of putting up that boundary. So it's been a cool two-way street of learning for both of us.
I think the hard thing you learn over time as a conflict avoider is the more you avoid conflict, the more conflict you attract later on down the road. And
it's just debt that's stacking.
Heavier conflict. But I
You're just
also
delaying
think
the
the
inevitable.
one thing that I learned is that conflict gets it has this bad connotation to it, right? But there's a way to communicate effectively so that conflict isn't a bad thing. And I think that's the misconception here that I would really like to put out there, which is conflict doesn't equal bad. The more you're able to actually deal with conflict in a positive manner, the more successful you can be in life. And it really is a skill that you can develop in how you communicate.
So what is your number one tip? And we'll wrap this up with that as the call to action for when conflict comes today for you as the listener. What is your approach to speaking up with that conflict?
Number one is always empathy first.
Okay.
Tactical empathy is before you enter a situation where you want to express yourself, always start by first thinking through
let's give a real life example. That way it's easy. So let's say I showed up really late today to work and I gave you no heads up about it. And we have a standard where we start this podcast at 9:30 a.m. and I start at 10 a.m. and I just come in like it's no big deal.
Okay.
So there's conflict.
There's a conflict.
I
can deal with that conflict head on, right? Like in a bad way, and just say like,
yo, what the fuck?
What the fuck? You're late. Why are you late? You mean
and that's just going to get me defensive.
That's going to get you defenses. And now it's a bad situation.
So starting with empathy.
Empathy. Mike, what's going on? Why were you late today?
But in a way that's genuinely concerned.
Genuine concern. Like, were you dealing with something? Is everything all right at home? Now I am bringing up the fact that there was a conflict. You clearly came in late today, right? I'm addressing it. I'm not ignoring it, which is the other thing, right? I'm not just saying, oh, Mike came in late in my head and then
holding on to that resentment all day. And then blowing up later.
So empathy is the number one tactic for dealing with conflict.
Because then it opens up a dialogue where you can both get on the same page again to resolve the conflict without either of you getting defensive.
Exactly.
I think along with empathy, it's caring. It's like actually genuinely caring about the person, right? It's not just...
you can't have empathy without caring.
Empathy leads to the caring.
All
right. Well, we went a little bit over here, but I think it was worth it because I think that was a really useful and just everyday example where people, if you are a conflict avoider, you can get an idea of how to handle conflict today so that you can set those clear boundaries, not let yourself get disrespected, and just communicate more clearly and effectively.
Love it. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Love you. Peace.